you facilitate these. Welcome to Porch Play Chat, sponsored by the American Association for Promoting a Child's Right to Play, or more affectionately called IPA-USA. IPA-USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association. And as part of our efforts to promote play, we have Porch Play Chats. And these are conversations with a variety of people who are just as passionate about play as we are. To find Porch Play Chats, go to our website at IPAUSA.org. And in that top right-hand corner, you'll find our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram links. And you can click on those and subscribe to our YouTube page and be a friend on our Facebook page, and you'll automatically get the Porch Play Chats that are released every Monday, one a week, every week of the year. So it gives you a little break as you're going to and from work. You can listen to a Porch Play Chat and be up to date on the latest fabulous things our presenters tell us about. So joining me on the porch, I'm Deb Lawrence, president of IPA USA, and on the porch with us is Lisa Murphy. Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
And Richard Cohen is back with us, and we're so excited to see
Hello, everyone.
He's
so glad to be here.
Yes, we're so glad. So Richard has been a proud member of the early childhood profession for almost 40 years. So just so you know, Richard, I still beat you.
You do understand enough math to know it will always be like that, right, Deb?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I still beat
you don't actually have to repeat it each time. It's just always the correct math.
But I think it's important that people know that it's been more than 40 years. Yeah. My son will be 45 this year. One of my sons. So he's been an infant teacher, a toddler teacher, a preschool teacher, a kindergarten teacher, and a center director. And he served in national and international early childhood leadership positions, and happily teaches community college in Connecticut. And that community college is where it's at. That's all I have to say.
Yep.
Richard also delivers keynote addresses and sessions at early childhood conferences all over the world. And he has a very large social media following on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And today, the topic is embodying play. What does it mean to embody play, and why is it important? So I am so excited about this topic.
Well, that is a very good question you asked, Deb. It's almost as if I wrote it.
Almost. Amazing. We're so in sync.
I know, right? It's creepy. Well, first, before I answer your amazing question, let me just say how I came to this topic recently. My whole life has been about embodying play, among other things, and we'll talk about that as we go. But recently, I have been using these guided meditations. I have been for years, but this particular brand or whatever of them. And when this guide starts a meditation with you, she tells you to sit down straight in your chair, but find what's most comfortable for you. And you may need to be a little playful in order to figure that out. And me being me, I thought, okay, wait, I have to pause this because now I need to think about that. What does that word mean? And of all the however many millions of people around the world listening to her, how do they each interpret that word? Because it's probably different than how I do. And I thought, well, that would make for a really good porch play chat, because we may all not be on the same page or have different subsets of ideas of what that word playful means and what it means to embody play. And so to embody play, you hear that word body in it. So it means bringing it into your body and becoming it. But embodying also means what happens with your mind, where your head is at, and also perhaps your spirit, the way your spirit, you express your spirit. Those are ways that we embody justice, play, fairness, whatever that is. These are not things we just do. They're things we are, that we become, that we be, right? And so when I think about early childhood spaces, communities, last time we were together, we talked about a lot of the things we do to encourage play, how we set up the environment, what we are doing while the kids or our party guests are there. But I would suggest that there's probably no more important indicator of for a group of children to give them permission to play or to be playful than what we're doing, but how we're being around young children. You don't actually have to say, I give you permission to play. You have to embody it, be play for them. And out of their love for you, they will take some of those things on or risk taking ways of being on that are new to them. They've only been on the planet for 1,000 days, right? So our role is that important. So I wanted to just have a conversation, just the three of us girls today, talking about what it means to be playful, what it means to embody play. And it could be a very long list that would take longer than we have, but I just thought with putting our three minds together, we could come up with, I would be really interested to hear what you two think. And between the three of us, we could come up with some pretty strong ideas of what it means to embody play, to be playful in such a way that it gives the people around you permission to be playful themselves. So Lisa and Deb, what's one example of a way of being? Why is Lisa showing us her nails?
Because that's one of the ways I do it.
Oh.
I always have different color nail polish on or glitter or sprinkles or something like that. Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for you, putting different colored nails on, that's something you do, right? But what message does it send to how does it say to the world, these nails mean I'm playful?
Maybe just because it's different.
Okay.
So maybe sending more of a message of breaks the rules a little bit, maybe, as opposed to playful per se.
Okay. Wait, Lisa Griffin Murphy breaks rules?
Yeah,
I didn't even know you knew there were rules.
Did you just got the announcement?
No, I missed that memo.
I think it is clothing. I used to wear really big, huge, funny earrings when I was in the classroom all the time.
Mm-hmm.
These are probably the most conservative glasses I've had in a while, but I think like my accessories, I think often will send the message that there's something a little different about this one.
Right. I am playful.
Yes.
Right. Just like my duck with his, I can't figure it out, with his head cocked sideways.
I love the duck.
I loved it because it was playful. He's not just standing there, he's tilting his head.
I take my shoes off in the classroom.
Say it again.
Shoes off.
I take my shoes off.
You take your shoes off. Okay, let's come back to that one in a minute, Deb, because I want to dig into something Lisa said first, which is when she began about how other people know it's playful, her mind went to the word different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I heard in that is that we're in a society that values sameness, right? And standardization. Don't get us started on that topic, right? So to be playful means to step outside of society's perhaps values intentionally, right? So intentionality undergirds all of the things we'll talk about. To say, no, there's no need for me to be like X. I'm going to be different. I'm going to show my uniqueness in the world, right? So there's something about being different and expressing your own uniqueness that perhaps reads to others as playfulness.
Yeah.
Okay. So anything you want to say on that, y'all, before we move on to shoes?
No, let's go on to shoes.
Okay.
Then I got another one.
Okay. Fabulous. I knew you'd have 10. Deb, why is taking off your shoes a sign of playfulness?
I don't want them to think that this is a classroom where I talk and they listen.
Okay.
Or I'm in a presentation and they may see me as the, professional who's presenting, but I want them to see me as an authentic person that isn't worried about rules. Because Lisa and I share that. We both break rules all the time. And so I don't need to fit into that mode or that model or that image that they typically see. Right.
Another term for the terms you just listed, I would say is like image and rule is schema,
Mhm.
right? So they have this newly forming schema, this concept of playfulness. And just by being ourselves around them, we're adding to that schema, or we're not, depending on how we're being, right?
Mhm.
So what I heard you just say, Deb, is that some indicators of playfulness are authenticity. I'm willing to be myself.
Mhm.
As Lisa said, rule breaking. I'm not the rule, rules are important. We're not saying all or nothing, but we're
Right.
saying, hey, there are some that we can bend.
Mhm.
And the other thing that I heard when you began speaking, Deb, I don't know if there's a word for it, so I'll just say this sort of the opposite. It's a lack of hypocrisy. I want them to know that I'm not above them, you said, something like that.
Mhm.
I'm not just here to guide them. I'm willing to play. So
Mhm.
for me, I don't know. I sort of heard not being Hippocratic. Is that a word? No, that's the
Hypocritical.
oath. Hypocritical. Thank you.
Critical. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because I think people sometimes walk into a classroom and they're intimidated,
by
right?
you?
If in a by I hope not, but just by
You mean a
walking in
child
and
or an
there's
adult?
an adult
Oh,
walking into a community college classroom, right?
right,
They might be intimidated and not because they don't know you. And
right.
then all of a sudden I take off my shoes and they're like, well, this is different, right? So maybe this isn't a place where I need to be intimidated,
Mm-hmm.
right? That this is a play. I want them to feel safe there, but I
Okay.
also want us to have fun, right? So it's that I'm breaking that mold model that they see or that mold that they might fit in.
Okay. Intentionally, actively breaking it,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yep.
You said you want them to feel safe. What does safety have to do with play? Why
Oh, I
why do you
think
need to feel safe in order to be playful?
because they need to be able to be curious and explore, and they can't do that unless they feel safe, right?
They got to
Yeah, see,
trust
we
it.
could go
They
on
got
for
to
hours. So
trust.
then you just brought up curiosity, right?
Uh-huh.
So
Yep.
I'm hearing you say that in order to be curious, you first have to have a sense of safety in order to
Mhm.
extend your curiosity out.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely. So important.
right. So some people, when they hear that word safety, they think, like don't take any risks, make sure
Mhm.
that no one hurts themselves. But safety also has to do with our emotions. We need to
Mhm.
feel emotionally secure in order to risk being something more than we thought we were.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Now, uncharacteristically of Lisa, she has been waiting patiently to take her turn. And I have not forgotten about you, my dear.
Oh, I was not worried about that.
All
No,
right.
I was thinking of I think still with accessories like different hair color, through the years, that kind of sends a big signal when you walk into the classroom and the teacher's got a big streak of blue coming down the side, like that's sending a message. But the one that I was really thinking about was the humor, using humor uh throughout the day, putting in somebody's name and replacing it in a story while you're reading it.
Right.
And especially when the humor is perhaps unexpected from the other, they weren't like I didn't see that coming.
Right.
Making light of some situations, which I think does go back to the trust, goes back to the safety feeling. This woman now, this grown up didn't scream at me when I knocked the tower over. So is this really how it is here?
Mhm.
Like, is it going to be consistent?
Right.
That's a big word for me. And I think it's the same as that, not hypocritical, right? I am consistent in how I'm responding to. This is going to be consistently a place where that kind of playfulness is encouraged and is not going to get shut down. And my mood doesn't dictate that.
Okay. So playfulness, what I'm hearing you say, I'm hearing you both say so many things, wonderful things. So playfulness isn't just how I am in the moment, it's also perhaps how I am consistently over time. So when we say that you need to be intentional, I need to be intentional with how I'm being, what I'm doing, what I'm saying in this moment. But I also need to make sure that I remember how I was in the last moment or yesterday when someone knocked over a tower, so that I am being consistent. And I feel like that goes back to what Deb said about safety and security, that my consistency, them knowing how I'm going to behave or how I'm going to react, helps them feel secure. And out of that feeling of security, they can be their natural selves, which is playful, right? For us adults, it may not be so natural anymore. But if you're 3, 2, 4, it's got to be a little confusing when the adults are asking you to be something other than your natural desire, which is to play, right?
Okay, I have one.
Go for it.
So every time a student walks in, this is a student in a college classroom, because I'm not with children that much anymore, so
Right.
which is very sad.
Yes.
And it's interesting how it impacts them. So one semester I came up with a crazy name. And so students are always sort of waiting for me to come and open the door, and I try to get there 20 minutes early so that they can get in and get settled. And so I say, "Good morning, Chicky Doodles." And they all just smile immediately and get up and race into the classroom. And then anyone who comes in after that, I say, "Good morning, so-and-so, good morning, so-and-so, good morning, so-and-so," as they walk in the door, even when they're late, "Good morning, so-and-so."
Right.
And so it's playful, because I'm not saying, "All right, class, we're going to blah, blah, blah." It's
an
that
attitude, right? I think it's a
welcoming,
playful spirit.
Right. Right. Go ahead, Deb. Was there more you wanted to say?
Well, it's just so funny because you don't
realize.
realize, and I want to go back to Lisa's earrings, Lisa's jewelry too. You don't realize what students see, so sometimes it's a little scary. So we had a group that was getting ready to graduate, and so I came in the door. It was like the last week or two of class. I came in the door and they say, "Dr. Lawrence, you need to go back out because I didn't have my phone ready. I need you to say, 'Good morning, Chicky Doodles,' again as you walk in the door so I can keep it with me." I was like,
Oh, that's
oh my
sweet.
God.
Right.
It's real. Everybody had their phones up. I'm like, okay, this is scary. But the earring thing is so funny because I don't know how I do it. It's one of those things that you do that's playful somehow or another. And I don't wear earrings because this is a virtual background and you wouldn't see them and it would drive you crazy. But I wear earrings every day, right? And they can be different earrings and they always match my clothes. I don't know how that happens. It just happens. And so one of the students one time said, "Dr. Lawrence, how do you always match your earrings?" I was like, "Oh my God, you're noticing I match my earrings? This is so scary. What else are you noticing that I don't know about?" So anyway, it's just funny how they notice your body language. They notice how you move around a classroom. They notice all these things, and you have to be so careful of the authenticity, right?
Yep.
And that you're modeling what you hope they'll do with children, right? So that's what I always say: model what you want them to do with children.
Right.
So anyway, those are just 2 other things that I recognized. I was like, that's so weird that I hadn't noticed that. So thank you, Richard.
Well, thank you. Those are 2 really important things. Yeah, what I heard and what you were saying about the matching earrings is you're not someone who does things, or at least puts on her earrings, for other people. To some extent, we all do that, right. But you're doing it because it's authentic to you, and you don't even realize that other people are picking up on it. So there's a lack of self-consciousness that I would say is another indicator of playfulness, right? We're not so tied into how are people going to perceive us, right? Which is what society teaches us to do, and why, to be playful, as Lisa says, we have to break rules, that rule of maybe valuing looking good, right? Yeah. And it's just that I don't feel dressed unless I have earrings in. So it's
my mother did that to me too. You never leave the house without lipstick and earrings. Oh, it kills me to this day.
Don't forget the clean underwear. Don't forget that, because you never know when you'll be in a car accident. You need to have clean underwear. Oh my God.
I wish my mother had done that for me. And she had 3 boys, so clean underwear was like one of her greatest challenges. That was never right there. She kept the bar very low for us. I want to go back though to another thing Lisa said, which was, as she was thinking it through and sort of speaking out loud, she said it's sort of an attitude, right?
Mhm.
And I agree. And I just want to point out that in early childhood education, formally anyway, in NAEYC, whatever, we call that a disposition.
Right.
So if you're ever in the field and you hear someone talking about a teacher's disposition, just think of Lisa and think of attitude. That's what that means, right? What's your attitude toward what you're doing or how you're being with other people's little kids, right?
And I believe very strongly that, and I said this the other day at a gig, I was like, has anybody invented a personality, like a Myers-Briggs for early childhood people specifically? Like, can we just give them a test and weed out the people right away? I mean, not that you could reduce it down to that, but like, if you don't bring a playful disposition to this job, you are going to be exhausted and miserable, and you're going to bring everybody with you. So it's like, I'm always curious as to why certain people will feel attracted to a role as an early childhood person when they just really don't seem to have that disposition. You
Right.
know, why are you working with toddlers if you hate messes? You know, like
Mhm.
why,
Well, but
why
we've
did you
been
even
around enough.
interview? Huh?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was like, you know what about this profession do you feel called to? Because it seems like there isn't a fit here at all.
Right. But all three of us have been around enough early childhood professionals to know that there's a variety of reasons why people get into the field. And sometimes they don't find out until they've been in it that playfulness is one of the key dispositions.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
They got into it because they want to be like their first grade teacher they remember,
Mhm.
or they got
Right.
into it because being around adults is intimidating and being around
Mhm.
little kids is familiar. It's something I know and I feel competent because I was a babysitter and as a teenager. So there's lots of reasons why people get into it. And I've been in enough conversations with Lisa now over the last couple of years to know that Lisa will tell people. One of the things that I've learned from Lisa is that you sometimes give me permission to let go of my judgmental disposition because you remind me that being an early childhood professional is a process and takes time, and that you have to find ways to start people out on their journey. They may not be where we're at, we three, and we have to figure out what are the steps to help them possibly get here, right? So maybe let's shift to that for a minute. What are some of the ways that people who aren't playful can maybe dip their toe in the playfulness pool? How do we help them move toward playfulness?
Actually, what you just said, roll up your pants.
Roll up your
And
pants.
literally, like literally roll up your pants and
Yes.
put your toe in the finger paint. Put your
Yes.
hand in the sensory tub.
Mhm.
Say yes. Say yes.
Yes. So it's about action, and it's about positive action, right? You can't just read an article about playfulness and think, yeah, that's a nice idea. You have to do something. And when your mind says, I don't know about that, I'm hearing you say, well, you need to respond to that with yes.
Yeah.
Any maybe, any I don't know is a yes. I wasn't sure about putting my toe in that finger paint. That's why I should do it. Because maybe I'll discover something about myself that I didn't know until my toe touched that paint. So you got to do something.
And they're taking a risk. And so again, I think it goes back to risk,
safety,
right?
risk, yeah.
And that safety, do I feel safe enough to try something? But I also, was I able to take risks as a child? And what did I learn from that, right?
Right.
Or was I
Did you get
not?
a spanking?
Yes, right. Was I not able to take a risk as a child? So I'm afraid to try something new, right? So I think we bring with us all those experiences we know are in our suitcases that we drag behind us. But the one thing I think that we can help them with is, could you tell me about a risk you were able to take as a child during play, right? And then see if that is, oh no, I could never do that. No, I'd get in trouble if I did that. Then just say, this is a place where you can take risks, right? So even I'm going back to the classroom, but when we do one of the courses, well, all of the courses have play in them. but one of them is very sensory play.
Mhm.
And I have, kids who have students who have sensory issues or who can't get dirty. And I go,
Right.
where did that come from?
Mhm.
Right. And so I have gloves available to help them feel safe in exploration, or sometimes they'll just sit and watch
Mhm.
what other people are doing and just say, I don't know if I could ever do this. And I just see what they're doing.
Right.
Here, I've got gloves in the closet.
I'm going to add to that, Deb. I think one of my favorite questions, and it's probably the one I first throw out to people who are leading with a lot of no,
Right.
the reframing question of what's the worst possible thing that's going to happen.
Mhm.
I mean, really, like, let's take this irrational thing that's bouncing in your brain and put some parameters around it. What is the worst possible thing that's going to happen if you put your hand into that oobleck?
Mhm.
And
That
what are some responses you hear to that question, Lisa?
it depends on what the thing is.
Mhm.
Sometimes it would be, well, I might throw up because I have a really wicked gag reflex. All right,
Right.
so we got a bucket. We're aware
Mhm.
that might happen. Maybe we'll start with a wooden spoon. So that
Right.
constant baby step, but never accepting the no. Like, you accept it, you make room for it, but there's always this little bit of a pushback to bring them to a place of what piece of it can they start saying yes to.
Mhm.
One of the Porch Play Chats we had yesterday with Shelley from the UK, and she was talking about, if the only time you can put that play hat on is for 10 minutes that first day, then put it on for those 10 minutes. And then maybe the next time it'll be 15 minutes, right? And you start stretching it out and being kind of rational about it. What is going to happen in your brain, because that's probably a lot different than what is really going to happen if you substituted my name in the story instead of what the author wrote.
Right. Right.
If you read the story backwards, if you sat on the floor for snack instead of at the table, and like little things like that can be like world rocking for some folks. And I think they start to see that not only the change can be manageable, but that increase of the amount of playfulness does not mean that I'm going to expect you to put a red dot on your nose, like a clown nose, and run around, making a fool of yourself. Like but I think that's
That'd be good
often,
too.
that's the extreme. I think that sometimes people go like,
Right.
this is not a lesson in how to be ridiculous, but it's, I think, a lesson in flexibility and approaching it occasionally maybe a little bit more rationally, and getting folks to be able to articulate what the fear in their brain is, because it's
Yes.
probably really worse than what really might happen.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was sitting, as you were speaking, I was thinking about, we need to use our rationality in order to perhaps be irrational. For
Mhm.
me, play isn't always rational, but it may be really foreign to a lot of adults. And so to get to giving myself permission to behave irrationally, or just have fun and be playful and not think it through everything. I'm hearing Lisa say, I may need to, one of my steps along the way is to access my rational mind to really see what my fear is, so that I can overcome it on my journey toward perhaps irrationality. Right.
Well, and I want to build on that, because I think one of the things that teachers struggle with is they want to be seen as professional, right?
Right.
And so they're worried that if they look too playful, people won't think they're doing their job.
That's right.
And so,
And then they're just reinforcing that false dichotomy, and it just makes me crazy.
I know, but it's
not
their
a choice.
stuff, right?
Yeah, it's not
It's
one
their
or the other.
Right. It's not it. And so I think if we can encourage them to be more authentic, because I think I'm hopeful that anyone who works with children wants to be playful. But sometimes I think they feel conflicted because they don't think they're going to be respected if they seem playful. And so I think that's another barrier that we have to push through. It's not only those experiences that we're bringing, but it's the perception, because we may not have enough confidence in ourselves
Excuse me.
that what we're doing is the right thing. Or maybe we haven't gone to school yet and understood why this is important. You might feel like it's important, but you're afraid of the perceptions of other people, right?
That's why
Yeah.
everybody should take an improv class. Every
Right.
early childhood person should be required to take improv.
Right. And the very first exercise you do in improv class is yes and.
Yes.
Which is the key to facilitating children's play, is it just changes
Because they
everything
do
when
it.
you can be yes and.
They do it without having taken an improv class. They say yes and constantly. That's why they're
Right.
such good players,
Right.
because they're saying yes.
So Lisa, we need to put in an improv session at the conference, 3 or 4 of those.
Okay.
I mean,
I'll
I think
do it.
that's important. Yes,
I'll
perfect.
facilitate it. I'm there.
Awesome. Wonderful. That's October, this coming October, Richard. So
Buy your
Okay.
ticket. See you in
get,
Texas.
yeah,
Oh, Texas. That's right. Okay.
yep, that's where we're headed. So
Mhm.
yeah, so I think that is also a way to help people get out of their comfort zone. I remember going to the task conferences and going to an improvisation session, and I feel like I'm pretty playful. But I was like, ooh, this feels really different. But I was able to take a risk and get through it, and I loved it. I would laugh
You know,
and laugh and laugh.
we're going off topic here, but maybe we're not. But like hula hoops, there was a task session we walked into, and it was just hula hoops for 40 minutes. We just did hula hoops.
I mean, I
And
bet you
people
laughed and
You know,
laughed.
they did, and people were like, "I haven't done this since I was like 6." And they're putting
Uh-huh.
them around their necks. They got them on their arms. They're doing it around their hips, and then you laughed. You're like, "Well, what was that a workshop on?" It was like a workshop on saying yes.
Mhm.
And a little bit of physical
And learning you're
activity.
capable of more than you thought 60 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I want to jump on something Deb said a moment ago when she said, I thought I was playful, and then I went into this workshop, right?
Mhm.
So what comes up for me, or what came up for me as I heard you say that I want to make sure that our viewers remember, is that there's many different ways to be playful,
Mhm.
right?
True.
So Deb is a really playful person, but when it comes to improv, that's her growing edge. That way of being playful wasn't there for her yet at that time. But being playful, I don't want anyone to think being playful means I need to be able to, use a hula hoop for 60 minutes. It could, but it could also mean I'm willing to pick up a worm, and I've always avoided touching a worm. Or it means, like Lisa said, I'm willing to put someone else's name into a story. I'm willing to sit on the floor for snack time. Those are all ways of singing, dancing. It's a very long list. It doesn't just have to be physicality, right? And then to also pick up on something Deb said, you talked about why people don't want to be playful because they're concerned that they may not look professional, right? And I have a lot of compassion for that. My life is surrounded by people who are depending on their $11 an hour, if they're lucky enough to get it, to put food on their table and feed their children and get to their second job working at Big Lots before the day is through. So I understand that, and we all do, that people are afraid. They've got fears that keep them from being playful. Like, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. And so we live in this society that tells us to be rule followers. Well, to follow rules, to just be followers, right? And to value standardization, to be like everyone else, to look around at what everyone else is doing or is told to do and do that. And that's how you'll stay safe. And we started this conversation with saying, well, but one of the key ways of being that someone's playful is when they set out to break those rules, right? But I think there are ways, Lisa, I think one of the reasons why people don't sit on the floor with their kids at snack time is because it doesn't even occur to them.
Yeah, true.
Right?
True.
So there's the level of thought. Playfulness starts on looking around me and saying, what's possible here? I know we always, it's 10 a.m. So that means they sit at the table, and that means I pass out the snacks. But what could we do differently this time? Oh, well, we could sit on the floor. But allowing yourself to even have that way of thinking
True.
is foreign to a lot of people. They don't even realize that playfulness is a possibility because they don't allow themselves to even think about
Mhm.
that, right?
Well, I think about the cookie cutter classrooms that we have, where every classroom you walk in looks exactly the same, has the exact same materials, right? Because of that standardization that we think is the right way of doing it,
Right.
instead of let's
Yeah.
mix up those manipulatives that you have in fine motor. Let's
Right.
get a different shape sensory table, and then let's move them around the building so children have access to different things.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a big struggle for folks. I think that being their authentic self, taking risks, not pushing back against standardization, which is really, I think, a huge issue, and just loving their job because they're being playful.
Mhm.
It's the ones who aren't playful that get so stressed out.
That's true. That's true. I also want to make sure that your viewers know, because at least on the surface, we three appear to be extroverted people.
Oh, yes. Mhm,
And so you can be introverted and playful.
mhm.
That's possible for you. You don't have to be. You're introverted, Lisa?
I have always
Unbelievable.
tested as an I.
Really?
Oh, my
Because I looked up
goodness.
extrovert in the dictionary and your
And there was a
picture
picture of my face.
Wow.
And you are
Okay.
there.
Right.
Yeah.
But I want people to know that you don't have to be an extrovert to be playful.
That's
If
very
you're
true.
a shy or an introverted person and you want to sit with a child on your lap and read a story, do a character voice, make a sound effect. If that's a small step forward in playfulness for you, I applaud you. You go for it. You don't have to be Deb or Richard or Lisa to be playful.
True.
My
Exactly.
playfulness is big, but
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean everyone's has to be.
So
Sure.
try just one thing, right? Take a risk. Try one
Mhm.
thing that you're comfortable with and see what happens.
Right.
It might be fun, right?
Right. And use Lisa's technique, which is just be rational for a second and think, what's the worst that could happen? Right.
Mhm.
But then allow yourself enough power to address what might happen. So you're concerned that people will think I'm not professional, like I could lose my job. Okay, well, one response to that is to just do what I'm supposed to do and follow my job description and do what everyone else is doing. That will keep you safe. And that's fine, I guess. It's not what's best for the young children you love so much, but okay. Another option is to approach your boss and say, I was thinking about maybe having snack on the floor. Would that be okay? And you might find out that by just addressing your fear by using your voice might tell you that some of the things that you're afraid of don't exist. You
Right.
might find your boss, who you think is a real hard ass, is going to say, oh, that's a great idea. Let's make sure you clean up afterwards. Oh, I really?
Huh?
Okay.
And
I
then
think
you'll be willing to take another risk, right?
Exactly.
You'll be willing to
Exactly.
ask another question.
I may have said this on our last time together. I don't know. But some time ago, I did a week-long residency at an Air Force base, a child development center on an Air Force base. Did I tell you all about this?
Mm-mm,
Okay.
mm-mm, mm-mm.
And what was the first thing that kind of hit me in the face as I worked with these women, they were 100% women at that time, was they were under the impression that there were so many rules guiding how they could do early childhood in their child development centers classrooms. And I understood that they're on a military base and military is all about rules and hierarchy. And I get that, but I realized it early on. So in addition to whatever content we were working on, I kept another parking lot list of rules that we think guide us here. And then I had the director at the end of the week, we changed the schedule around and we did an hour on, I brought the director in and said, could you please go down this list of rules and tell us which are actually rules and which are ones people just think are rules. And almost 100% of the things on this list were not actually rules. Like, we're not allowed to take our shoes off. We're not allowed to sit on the floor for snack. A million things that they assumed were rules until they asked.
Yep.
So ask.
That's why I say, what page is that on? What page is that on? And the other thing I know, Richard, and I know you've heard me say it, is that most of those rules are the preferences of the resident poopy face person who just has so much power and everybody's afraid of her. So when she says you're not allowed to do that, everybody says, okay. And now you have us, you know, kind of coming to that lowest common denominator. It's usually the burnt out, frustrated, you know, they're not rules. I'm so glad that you shared that story, Richard.
Yes, or
Because
this
it's a
one
good
thing
exercise.
happened, or this one thing happened, so it has to be a blanket rule forever, right? One
Right,
thing
right.
happened out of
10 years
20
ago.
years.
Right.
knee
10
jerk
years ago,
policy.
this kid stapled his finger, so now we don't have staplers in
No
our preschool
staples.
classrooms
Exactly.
anymore.
Oh my goodness, don't get me
Right.
started
That's
on
a whole
whole
workshop.
nother-
Right,
That's
exactly.
a whole nother Porch Play Chat. Richard,
But-
as always, this has been amazing. And so hang tight while I close this out. So to hear more or learn more about IPA-USA, to join us, I hope, in our advocacy efforts, or to sign up for the Porch Play Chats, which are free to you, just go to our website at IPAUSA.org and keep on playing until next time.
Thanks, Richard.
Bye.
Thanks, Richard.